North Korea recently test-fired 8 short-range ballistic missiles from several locations toward the sea. U.S. and South Korean officials say these tests might culminate in a nuclear test explosion. Soo Kim is a policy analyst at the RAND Corporation and a former CIA analyst. Sue, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
There were 8 new missile tests from North Korea recently. What's the significance of those?
So the number is striking. And I think what's striking about this incident is that it's not just 8 North Korean missile tests, but it was followed immediately by 8 United States, South Korean missile tests in return. So both Koreas are trying to, I wouldn't say ramp up tensions, but they're both trying to maintain their position and to communicate with the other Korea that they're ready for any kind of escalation of tensions and provocations that might take place. So from the South Korean angle, it's to decrease and to protect the security of the region. Whereas in the North Korean case, it's about escalating the tensions between the two Koreas and to convey a message to the United States and South Korea that Kim is going to go nuclear and to maintain his position vis-a-vis the ROK and the United States.
Well, before we talk about going nuclear, I want to ask you about the timing of the test, because it was around President Biden's Asia trip and also after a joint U.S.-South Korea naval drill.
Right. So for Kim to have kept silent amid COVID-19, amid Russia-Ukraine tensions, amid a new South Korean presidency and a very successful U.S.-South Korea summit, that would have been, I think, a symbol or an indication of resignation on Kim's part. So he had to say something or do something about this. So the timing was to keep all of those atmospherics in mind and to let the United States and South Korea just remember that North Korea still exists and that even though negotiations are not taking place, Kim Jong-un is still maintaining his position and he wants to be acknowledged as a nuclear state by the United States, South Korea, and the international community.
So do you think North Korea will test a nuclear weapon? Is that where this is heading?
So the signs are indicating that they're getting ready to go nuclear or to test a nuclear weapon. What's interesting is that we've been sort of waiting for this to happen, and North Korea has not actually, gone by our predictions or our time. But I would say that because we've seen the signs and the movements for a long time now, it's actually just a matter of when, not if.
And when, we had mentioned that there was a response of missiles fired from South Korea. Is that typical that there would be a response from the South?
So if we recall the responses or the non-responses, I would say, from the previous South Korean administration, what happened under the Yoon administration just this, a couple days ago is not expected. I think this was probably the strongest South Korean response we've seen in a while. But I would also caution that this is also still just this is all also hypothetical. It's a scenario. So we don't really know how the allies are going to respond if and when the tensions actually do start to escalate to a point where it's more tangible. And the reason why the United States and South Korea have taken this response by firing a volley of 8 missiles is so that it's not to create an atmosphere of war in the region, but to discourage North Korea from taking more drastic measures and more reckless moves that are going to upset the stability and the balance in the region.
I wonder, the Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. has been uncharacteristically open about intelligence, about when North Korea is going to be launching these test missiles. What do you think of that? Is that having the intended effect? I mean, what is the intended effect?
So it's uncharacteristic, I think, in that North Korea has also been uncharacteristically invested more so in its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile systems. So to reduce tensions and to send a signal to the North Koreans that, one, we're keeping an eye on Kim Jong-un's weapons moves, and two, that any sort of drastic escalatory measures taken by Pyongyang is going to be watched carefully, and that there will be consequences. I'm guessing that the intelligence community have judged that this would be a way that would be much more effective than just allowing North Korea to continue without any sort of acknowledgement from Washington and from Seoul that we know that this is taking place. But what's also interesting is that this is not actually discouraging Kim Jong-un from pressing forward with this plan. So I think the announcement and the sharing of the information to the public and also to North Korea is helpful, but this also needs to be backed with measures, you know, a la the two United States and South Korea conducting missile tests the past couple of days. Those sorts of things that are going to be the actions that are followed by words and signals, I think, would be much more substantial.
So, you know, Kim Jong-un has made comments that he's willing to use nuclear weapons proactively when threatened or provoked. Is that a shift in doctrine, or is it more of the same rhetoric?
You know, I would just say that it's the same thing. When North Korea had started to ramp up and build up its nuclear capabilities, there was no question that that denuclearization was out of the picture for the United States and South Korea. So for North Korea, an impoverished country that does not really care about its citizens, to invest that much money and that much time into the weapons capabilities, you have to think about why they're holding on to it and why they're so insistent upon building and self-defensive measures when in fact the United States and South Korea we don't harbor hostile intent towards North Korea. So again, I think it's just a shift in rhetoric as opposed to a shift in position.
All right, Sue, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.